Thank you, Martin. You know, Thomas Edison once said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Well, we're here at Chegg, Silicon Valley's latest darling, where they're fully inspired and lots of perspiration as people are working together to solve problems to create jobs. We'll explain the egg a little bit later, but right now we begin day 2, 30 million jobs for this Thursday, January 19th. Well, welcome to day 2 of our 30 Million Jobs Tour. I am Dylan Radigan. Sorry for the cough here today. Live from the Go-To Student Center on the Internet, Chegg, in Santa Clara, California. Here at Chegg, it is all about using all of our resources, in this case educational resources, more efficiently and more effectively to help students learn more while spending less. They are rethinking here how students buy and utilize text and textbooks, not to mention a host of applications and online forums that use technology to help students learn more, better, faster, cheaper. They also just introduced a new e-reader this week designed specifically for students, which suggests that a few folks, maybe Apple and Amazon, in their sites. More on that and the Chegg philosophy with CEO Dan Rosensweig coming up, plus all the big political news of the day involving Gingrich, Perry, the ex-wives, and of course, some money in the Cayman Islands. The mega panel is in town, but right now we're discussing hotspotting, specifically in education, and it is a crucial component not only to innovation and to creating a competitive American workforce, but to the intelligent and effective use of our resources that creates jobs at a time when we need them and we don't have as much money perhaps as we once thought we did. Our current educational system, as we all know, out of whack. It puts resources where the money is instead of where they are needed most. We need to flip that. Also, we need to find out which schools obviously need the most resources and concentrate our resources, our efforts there. But it's not just about which school gets the resources. It's about what happens to those resources once they get into the school. Do we understand the way that humans, children and adults, best learn? And do we hotspot for that? We need to rethink the way we teach to that end. Instead of ultimately accepting mediocrity and rewarding test-taking skills, we need to encourage skill mastery and, more importantly, the culture of experimentation and the acceptance of failure as a critical part of that process. Our first guest has proven time and time again that the way we learn best is through that culture of experimentation, failure, and ultimately mastery at any age. Sal Khan founded the Khan Academy in San Francisco, and he's based that on the theory of experimentation and skill mastery. And it's nice to see you in person. I had the pleasure once on remote, I think, to talk to you.
Great to be here.
You taught me a lot in the course of writing the book, and I'm hoping that people will consume and learn more about what you are doing. But specifically, how is it that you are taking the sort of the thesis of this is how people learn, experimentation and mastery, and hotspotting to that, over-allocating to that system, and applying it in San Francisco?
Well, you know, we started, it's most known for this collection of videos that I started making really for family members, and then we started adding all the software on once we got some funding. And what the software allows students to do is work at their own pace, master concepts, and move on to other ones. And so a school district out here in Silicon Valley came up to us and said, well, what would you do with a 5th grade class? And we said, we would have every student working at their own pace, mastering concepts before they move on, and then the teacher can do very focused interventions when a student is stuck. And now all of a sudden you don't have these high stakes assessment. If you get something wrong, you got a B, a C, or a D. Instead, you just keep working on it. And in our view, that's what's making people fail, especially topics like mathematics, is that they get all these little gaps while they're learning through things. They didn't know exponents well. They didn't know negative numbers well. Then all of a sudden in algebra they're having difficulty, but it has nothing to do with algebra. It has something to do with something they should have learned in 7th grade or 6th grade. And we're saying, no, just let those foundations build and then progress. Instead of the fixed thing being how long you have to learn something and when you learn it, and the variable being how well you learn it, we're saying let the variable be when and how long you learn it, and let the fixed thing be a very high standard of mastery.
In a political contest that doesn't revolve around the issues and the lack of investment and the lack of ultimate innovation and experimentation that is being caused in this country, not by the president, but by either political party, but instead we're indulging in this game of lesser of two evils, which we've been doing for a long time. But may be good for trading power, but it's not clear that it's good for creating prosperity.
Yeah, you know, I was on the plane last night, or on the tarmac for about 7 hours, practically, and I'm reading Chris Matthews' book about JFK. And the one thing that I am utterly fascinated about reading this now is it's so much like a blueprint for that the Nixon-Kennedy race was so much like a blueprint for today. Where's the country headed? Are we losing power as the superpower in the world? Where, I mean, in essence, what's our role? Are we weaker than we were before? And those were the big questions that were totally within the realm of the country at that point in time. And I'm reading this book and I'm thinking to myself, and I write my books, and I'm writing this is Obama v. whoever. This is totally today.
People want it to change or expect it to change in 6 months, and that's what this.
But we're not even having the debate.
Right.
But that's
exactly.
the point.
To Dylan's question, the point is the debate we need to have. You're right. More people are in poverty, but why? I mean, you can't. That doesn't. That's
why?
not all
Because
on,
why?
Hold on. Let me. That's
and
not all
I don't
on,
put it on him. That's
right,
on. That's on the distorted capital flows of our nation.
Right. What I'm saying is the way the political debate is shaking out is Republicans are trying to blame it on Obama.
Right.
That doesn't get us to how do we create more pathways to success.
Just what is a CHEG? The answer to that question and how all the folks around us here, tolerating our TV show in their office, I might add, are changing the way we all ought to be thinking about education. The 30 Million Jobs Tour continues live from Silicon Valley, home to the titans of the digital universe after this. Well, what is the actual problem you're trying to solve? And once you understand it, what is the most efficient and adaptable way to actually solve it? Those are two questions that our next guest has helped create the bustling business you see around us, hosting us today here at Chegg, a web property that really is much more than that. It is a go-to student center not only on the internet, but a distributor of text and learning throughout this country in a way that is vastly more efficient than you and I may remember from our college days. And in this case, the problem they had was how to save students time and money and help them learn too. Well, the answer was a business that allowed college students to rent or buy used textbooks at a fraction of the price, and that was simply the beginning for them. And joining us now is Chegg CEO Dan Rosenzweig, who is also the former chief operating officer at Yahoo. And for all of you Guitar Hero fans out there, he did run that division at Activision as well. And thank you for hosting us today.
Welcome, Dylan. And before we start, we want to welcome you to Silicon Valley. I understand you're a huge 49ers
yes, that's
fan.
fantastic.
And we are overlooking where the new stadium is going to be.
Okay.
So
wow.
it's a fun welcome, and it's going to be a great weekend.
All right,
here.
thank you very much. The Gold Rush. Do you think they're going to kill the Giants?
Well, as a born and bred New Yorker, I'm just happy to say I win either way.
So what is this business? What is a Chegg?
Well, the concept of Chegg is really chicken or egg, which is in order to afford college, you need to make money. In order to make money, you need to get a job, which means you need to go to college. So the issue was it's impossible to afford college these days. So the idea is how could we save students time and money and help them get smarter? And the first step, as you mentioned, was to lower the cost of textbooks. In public schools today, only 20% of the kids in America go to private higher education institutions. So the rest go to taxpayer-funded schools. And as you know, everything is being cut at those schools. Teachers are being cut. Money's being cut. Facilities are being cut. And it was crazy to us that the cost of a textbook was as much as 25% of the cost of actually taking the class. And so we've created a business.
What does it cost now?
Well, the average new textbook is about $100. We would take a $100 textbook and we would rent it for something like $40.
Here, we've talked to people who do it right. After this, a prime example of a great idea that may be using the opposite of hotspotting as the quest to bring high-speed rail to California jumped the tracks.
Critics of the high-speed rail project abound, as they often do when something of this magnitude is proposed. The critics were wrong then, and they're wrong now.
Well, that is, of course, California Governor Jerry Brown, who is all in on his state's high-speed rail initiative. The idea, a good one, to create an electric rail system that would cut travel times to 3 hours or less between any major city in California. The methodology, however, the how, may be going off the tracks. 800 miles of tracks, new viaducts, all sorts of pork potentially throughout the state. May create some jobs in the short term. San Francisco to L.A. in 2.5 hours. That's a pretty good pitch, except concerns are mounting about the cost of the system, which has spiraled upwards since being approved by voters, after they approved it, I might add. And critics say that the benefits could still be achieved, getting where you need to get in less than 3 hours, by scaling back construction and simply upgrading many portions of the existing system. In Greedy Bastards, we talk about how a high-speed rail system is a step in our journey to energy independence. But what we have here may be the opposite of hot spotting, but cold spotting, identifying the wrong priorities to solve a problem. The train would begin in Merced, where there are few people. Why would you do that? Not in the population centers of, let's say, Sacramento, or right here in a place like San Jose. And that's just the beginning of the debate. Joining us now, our transit development planning expert, Mike Setti from publictransit.us, and California State Senator Joe Simitian, who says that the high-speed rail project needs to be revisited. And Senator, obviously it's a great idea to try to connect California in 3 hours or less from one point to the other, but it would seem that both the costs and the goals are either not focused or changing.
Well, Dylan, I think you're right on. The issue here for me isn't high-speed rail or not. I've always said I support high-speed rail done right. The question is, 3 years after the bond measure was passed here in California, have we got a plan on the table and a management team in place that can deliver high-speed rail done right? That's the struggle we're facing here in California right now.
Where this has spiraled out of control is where they have come up with plans that require an excessive number of tunnels and viaducts, which are really expensive. I mean, it's about 2/3 to 3/4 of this cost. In fact, when they estimated $100 billion for this project, most of the cost increase was additional viaducts and tunnels that they feel that they need.
Isn't that necessary in order to do this? Why is that not necessary for the 3-hour threshold?
There's certain areas where that is necessary, particularly the stretch between Bakersfield and Los Angeles over the Tehachapi Mountains. A certain amount of tunneling and viaducts are necessary in the mountains.
Yeah. Go ahead, Senator.
Well, I was going to say, Dylan, there are also some challenges, frankly, in going through the more developed urban areas. When you start talking about the area around Los Angeles, the area from San Francisco to San Jose, the Silicon Valley district that I represent, you've got some impact on the community questions that have to be asked and answered, and I think that's part of the struggle as well.